Did you ever think that your computer is capable of running more than one operating system? This is called dual boot. Most of the computers can have a dual boot setup, which means you can install multiple operating systems on one single computer. A dual boot setup can be made on any computer like PC or laptop. So in this video, I will show you how to set up a dual boot on your PC or laptop running a Windows with Ubuntu 18.10. So let's get started. This video assumes that you have installed Windows already on your PC or laptop. So this is my PC running on Windows 10 Creators Update. By the time of recording this video, Ubuntu 18.10 is the current version available from Canonical. If in future you were to see the newer version available, then the procedure will be the same. The following procedure is based on legacy BIOS method using MBR mapping. Most of the computers support a legacy BIOS method, so in the first step, we will be creating a bootable USB with Ubuntu 18.10. So I recommend you need to have a 4 gigs or higher pen drive to make a Ubuntu bootable through USB. Then head over to Ubuntu website and click on a download and choose the 18.10, the latest and greatest version available from Canonical, and download it. Once you are downloading the image, now go ahead and format the pen drive using the SDFormatter. This helps formatting your pen drive and prepare for bootable USB. Then download the tool called a Rufus and open it. Now inside the Rufus, select your drive and choose Ubuntu ISO file. Then leave the partition scheme as a default MBR and target system as BIOS UEFI. Once everything is set, then click on Start. So this tool will create a bootable USB with Ubuntu 18.10, and it should gonna take a couple of minutes based on the writing speed of your pen drive. Now once it's done, I'm moving to the step number 2, creating a partition for Ubuntu 18.10. For that, open your Run dialog box and type a CMD, shortly known for command prompt, and inside type the command called diskmgmt.msc and then press the return key to open a disk manager. Then choose the appropriate drive where Windows 10 has installed. In my case, the Windows 10 has been installed to a disk 1. So if I right click on it and look for the properties of this disk, the partition style is MBR. Technically, MBR formatted disks are capable of handling 4 primary partitions only. So inside the disk, there are 2 main partitions of Windows 10. One is the system partition and another one is a Windows OS partition. So only one primary partition can be set as active. In this case, the system reserved is a partition which can be known to BIOS where Windows 10 boot files are located. Now we need to create an extended partition for Linux Ubuntu. Choose the largest and last continuous partition in the disk to shrink the space. So I will select the SC drive in this case, right click on it and choose a shrink volume. Windows will show you the free amount of space is available on this partition. So we are installing Ubuntu, you need to have at least 10 gigs or higher of free space. That's the minimum amount of the space needed for installation. So in my case, it's showing 14 gigs of space. You can shrink as much as you need it for Ubuntu, it depends on the usage. Open a calculator and type amount of a GB you want to have, and multiplying by 1024, it gives the amount of a space in megabytes. For example, if you're planning for 40 gigs, then type 40 times 1024 to convert into megabytes. In this case, I will leave it as a default and click on Shrink. This will create an extended partition which is unallocated by default. So we will be using this free space to install Ubuntu. Now moving to the final step. Now turn off your computer and make sure bootable USB is connected to your computer. Now go to the BIOS settings. By pressing F2 or delete key on most of the computers will enter into the BIOS settings. Then make sure the legacy BIOS mode is enabled, and also turn off a secure boot if it is enabled, then save the changes. If your computer supports automatically booting from USB, then it's good. If it isn't, then you need to manually enter into the boot menu by pressing F12 or F10, then choose the pen drive from here. So in this case, I will select the SanDisk option. Now it will load the Ubuntu setup installer. Once it's done, now you will see the welcome screen. From here, choose the language, and I will leave it as a default English option. Then you have two options: try Ubuntu and install Ubuntu. You can try Ubuntu without installing it through USB. For now, we will select install Ubuntu, then choose the keyboard layout and click on next. Now here leave it as a default normal installation option which installs necessary tools. And down here unselect all these options. If you want, you can install all the drivers and packages from here, but it requires internet and sometimes it takes a lot of time. So we do this later on completion. Then click on continue. Now you will see it's detected the Windows 10 already installed on this computer. By default, you can choose the first option called Install Ubuntu along the side with Windows. This will automatically create a Ubuntu partition from Windows and install it. So if you select this option, you don't need to shrink any space that we did through the disk management in Windows. Automatically, Ubuntu installer will manage it for you. So if you're absolutely a beginner or naive, then select this option to make installation hassle-free. So in my case, I will select a something else option and click on next. Now here choose the drive which is where Windows is installed. So in this case it is SDC drive. You can see it's showing a Windows 10 and its related partitions along with a free space that we have created earlier. Select the free space option and click on the plus button. Now set the partition type as a logical, and we need to create a root partition. For that I will allocate a 10 gigs of space. Here you can enter as much as you need it. And select the ext4 file system and mount point is set to /. Then click on OK, so it will create a root partition from this free space. Now again click on a free space, then click on a plus button and create another partition for swap area. A swap area in Linux is known as a virtual RAM. If your computer has a less amount of a physical RAM, then swap memory will help the paging process of computer by storing the memory into a swap partition so that the operating system can use it wisely. Nowadays, modern computers has a plenty enough physical RAM. But according to a Red Hat documentation, if the physical RAM is a 4 GB or higher, then 2 GB or higher of swap space is recommended. In my case, I'm having 8 gigs of physical RAM, so I will select all the available free space for swap partition. Now we have successfully done creating these two partitions. Now we need to select the bootloader. Most of the Linux systems need a Grub bootloader to be installed inside the drive in order to load the Ubuntu. So choose the appropriate drive. In this case, I will select this drive to install the Grub bootloader. This will eventually override the system result partition by replacing a Windows boot manager with Grub boot manager. Then click on install now. Now you can see these are the partitions we have created and click on continue. Now set the time zone and create an account. Then click on continue. Now it will start installing Ubuntu. Sit back and relax and don't interrupt your computer. Now after some time, on completion of installation, you will see this message: installation is completely, and simply restart your computer and remove the USB drive. Then it will load the Grub bootloader. From here you can boot into Ubuntu and Windows 10 very easily. For now, boot into Ubuntu first. Once installation is done, the first thing you should do right after is updating. Go to Launchpad, Utilities, Terminal. Inside the terminal, type the command called sudo apt-get update to update all of the repos and packages. Then type a sudo apt-get upgrade to upgrade all of the packages. Now once it's done, now I will slightly modify the Grub settings. Before modifying the Grub settings, please make a backup of this Grub file using this command. Then type this command to edit the grub file. Now you can see grub default is set to 0, which means Ubuntu is the first one to boot on powering up the PC. So I will change the timeout option to 30 seconds. Then hit a Ctrl+O to save the changes and Ctrl+X to exit the file. Then we need to type this command to reflect the changes. That's it, and we are done. Then type this command and it will reboot the computer. Just in case if you got stuck on any issues, let me know in the comment section down below. So also, if you decided to uninstall Linux or Ubuntu safely, just watch my video from here and safely remove a Linux without disturbing Windows 10. And that's pretty much about it. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button down there. This kind of videos actually takes a lot of time to make. I appreciate your time and watching this video. So this is KSK signing off. Peace.